Katie Brooke is an artist from the Northern Rivers district of New South Wales. She released a self-titled EP in 2020 and her debut album, Sticks, Stones and Stories, 2 years ago, I think now, almost 2 years ago. Late last year, she released the single Too Far Down, and her latest single is Can't Fake That. So we have a little bit to talk about. Hello, Katie.
Hello, Sophie. Thanks for having me again.
It's great to see you again. And I am going to launch not into music, but I'm going to ask you how the recent Mercury retrograde treated you.
I was saying to Jules, my publicist, the other day, why do I release music during Mercury retrograde? Because everything is just so reliant on technology. Not only that, but we had the eclipse, right? So that whole eclipse season and Mercury retrograde was all in one. It was actually, sometimes I don't find I'm affected too much, but it was like you would go to town. I've just got to pop in, get my groceries. 3 hours later, like so many delays, so many. I think I paid $80 for this weird PDF online converter that I didn't need. Like all these things, because I'm not great with tech anyway, but it was just crazy. How was it for you? Was it crazy for you?
It was okay. So to give some context to anyone listening / watching who doesn't know what we're talking about, Mercury retrograde is actually the reason why I started paying attention to astrology years ago, because someone told me about it. I was like, oh, that can't be real. But basically when the planet Mercury goes retrograde, so it starts moving backwards, it's meant to affect technological equipment, communications, and all sorts of things. And I used to think it was rubbish until I realized what would happen during Mercury retrograde, which is basically any printer or like database or whatever, or a car or mobile phones will break down. I once said something to someone else I know about it, and she also poo-pooed it. And then she came back the next week and said, all 4 mobile phones in my family and 2 of our cars have broken down. It's like,
It's such
well,
a thing.
it is such a thing. So you're not meant to
Yeah.
sign contracts because they're vulnerable to being
Yes.
reneged on, and also releasing music. So my question back to you,
Mm.
Katie, about this is, why are you not checking the dates before you schedule your releases?
I don't know. And I'm so driven by it as well.
So you also asked about how my eclipse season, Mercury retrograde, was. I know too well that eclipse seasons can be really hairy. And in fact, when I teach yoga classes, I tend to warn people about them. And one year I was very cavalier about this, and then I was the victim of the eclipse season in a very dramatic fashion that I won't go into. But suffice to say, I refuse to believe that we are not affected by the things that go on around us in the universe, because we're
Yeah.
all on these rocks traveling around together.
Oh,
But
yeah.
the question therefore, Katie, is, have you ever checked the Mercury retrograde dates before you planned your single releases?
This is just such a great question and something that I need to do next time. No, I sometimes do get a rough idea of what's happening, but I think I just get so in the moment of the music that I don't go, hang on, what is the universe doing? What's
Right.
what are the planets doing? Is that a good time? But I will in future now really make sure that I'll be extra careful when booking a
And,
release.
and for anyone who thinks that it may be a little bit hokum to talk about astrology, I will remind people that Indians, as in the country India, have relied on Vedic astrology for millennia. And anyone who's ever had a Vedic astrology reading will know how incredibly accurate they are. So also worth considering, Katie, for your future releases.
Yes,
But we are talking
maybe
about
I should do that.
Can't Fake That, your latest release. And I'm wondering what the inspiration was behind the song.
Yeah, this is a big one for me because it's so country. It's country, it's a tribute to country women, women of the land, cowgirls. It comes with that kind of outlaw. I talk about Calamity Jane and Annie Oakley, who I absolutely love and grew up wanting to be just like, Calamity Jane. I wanted to be that cowgirl outlaw, and tied it all in as I was sitting there this time last year, about mid last year, thinking about how cool country music is. Funnily enough, Lainey Wilson released a similar kind of song this year. But yeah, I was sitting there thinking, wow, it's such a trend. And then I thought, I hope people that are embracing the trend are realizing, that it's so much more than just putting on the hat and putting on the boots. And I hope that they can dig a little deeper if they love it and find out more about it. And yeah, that's in a nutshell pretty much what it was. It sounded a little bit cheeky at times. It was a little bit more lighthearted than definitely compared to Dreamer's Tired Mind or Too Far Down. But I kind of want to have a little bit more fun with music too. I'm very deeply emotional, with my music and my songs. So it was really nice to sit there and just kind of have a little giggle and have a lighthearted session and yeah, get this song down.
But I think it's also about, well, it's also tied into the fact that what a lot of the audience for country music relies on is authenticity. And so you're addressing that, saying, you can't, basically, you can't fake authenticity.
Yeah, exactly. It's just not a trend. And I don't want to be, seemingly gatekeeping, saying that, if you didn't grow up this way, if you're not really a country person, you can't embrace the trend. That's definitely not what I'm doing. And I love it. I actually really love where it's all going and that it's such a big thing at the moment. And I think what I really wanted to focus on is that I'm a rural-based artist, and there's not a lot of artists that are still choosing to live rural-based. It has its challenges when you want to pursue a career in country music. So I think, I really wanted to make sure I was stepping in that direction of, hey, I'm the rural-based artist. I
Oh.
live in this tiny little town, and I'm a country singer, and it kind of sets me apart a little bit as well. So I wanted to celebrate that.
Well, because you do have a line in it, can't be all hat and no cattle, all horse and no saddle. And I imagine, as someone who grew up on and still lives on the land, that you have occasionally seen people come into your orbit, not necessarily music related, but they
Yeah.
are all hat and no cattle.
Oh yeah. Look, I've been all hat and no cattle at times as well. I've been all horse and no saddle and all saddle and no horse and
Yeah. So, but
yeah,
again, this is where
all the
it's coming from an
things.
authentic place, right? Because you are
Yeah.
with a self-aware side.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's nice to bring people aware of this lifestyle, and actually it is a lot more than just going to the festivals, putting on the boots. Yeah, what's it all about?
Yeah. I was in Sydney CBD the other day on the way to Jolene's, which is a country music bar, to see an artist called Ryan Mead perform. And as I was walking from the bus stop, I saw people on the other side of the road in cowboy boots and cowboy tie. And I was thinking, I bet you're going to this place later on. And sure enough, they turn up an hour later.
There you go.
Look,
Wow. It's
yeah.
just popping up everywhere, isn't it?
It
It's very
is. I did
cool.
not have boots or anything else like it on, so clearly I don't know what I'm doing. But
Ah, you
the
don't need
song,
them.
the song "Can't Fake That" was produced by Rusty Crook, who is a longtime collaborator of yours. But from what I understand, the production of this song was not necessarily straightforward because you had a different version of it to begin with.
We did. We started a little bit slower. It was a very laid back kind of Western style song. That's still it's not super, super fast. But we'd finished it and I went, yeah, yeah, cool. And then I went home and kind of went, something's missing. I don't know if I want to go forward with this. And, we'd completed it. So
Right.
it's so hard when you've spent that time. So when I work in the studio, I drive down to Tamworth, which is 5-ish hours, do my time in the studio, drive back the same day. So it's usually like a big 10 plus 3 hours in the studio, 13, 14-hour day. So we'd done that. And then I thought, I've got to call Rusty. Something's not sitting right. And he said, yeah, it's that tempo thing. And I thought, let's do it again. So back I went. We had to redo the whole drum track, pay for it all again, pay for that time again. But that's how serious it is when you're putting something out there. All of your life, it's going to be there, your
Mhm.
legacy that you're leaving behind. So you want to listen to it every time and go, just right, just, that hit it, that's great. So that tempo lift was perfect.
Did you have your doubts about the original version sort of almost as soon as you'd finished it?
I think so. It was a little niggle. But how you try and sell yourself on things?
Right.
Oh, it'll change. You'll get used to it. So, I was trying to sort of talk it up and be positive about it. And I might feel different in the morning. Yeah. And it's good to sleep on things, but sometimes in your heart if you need to change something. It's important.
So I suppose it was a time costing and generally costing lesson in following your instinct as an artist.
Yes, absolutely. Everything's a lesson. We do learn. And, it's good to double check things, and especially during Mercury retrograde. But yeah, it is really good to double check your work and be happy with it in your soul, because I know some people, I've heard artists say they've released stuff because, someone very important told me that it needs to sound like this and their opinion matters. So I need to put it out. And it's at the cost of their own content, happiness with their own music. I think take yourself seriously first, because your opinion is the first one that matters.
That is a great policy, Katie. Take yourself
Yeah.
seriously first. I think
Yeah.
Yeah, and or at the very least, if you don't feel like you want to take yourself seriously, because sometimes, especially in Australian culture, we think that's a bit on the nose, take your work
Yeah.
seriously.
Yes. Yeah, don't put it out unless you feel like your ears are okay with it. And
Yeah.
as an artist, we all have pretty finely tuned ears. Like we know what feels good and what doesn't. So, and then hopefully there are people on your team too who will kind of confirm that for you. Like
Yeah.
I take it to Rusty, am I right about this or am I crazy to be recording this song? And generally he's like, I can tell if he's not mean at all. I need him to be a bit more mean sometimes, but I can tell the kind of look on his face. We've been working together long enough now. I'm like, yeah, you don't really like this, do you? So yeah.
Interesting. I'm curious, given that you have the long drive to the studio, do you use that time to rehearse the vocal you're about to record, or do you tend to just leave it in your brain so that so when you get to the studio, it's there to pull out?
Yeah, good question. I do sort of 50-50. I use it as a nostalgic trip. I love to do like my old George Strait and Chris Ledoux and all that old stuff, but then I'll do half of the song as well. So I'm kind of in the zone of it. Usually as I get closer to Tamworth, I'll make sure my voice is warmed up. And yeah, I don't want to wear it out either. I hate going into the studio with a tired voice.
Yeah. That's quite a feat though, doing 5 hours drive there, a few hours in the studio, and then turning around driving home. You must be exhausted by the time you walk in the
It's
door.
massive. Yeah. I used to do it all the time when I was younger with gigs and stuff too. But as I get older, because I'm so old now, but yeah, every trip just feels that little bit longer.
Oh, it's like, yeah, driving is tiring. Now there's a
Yes.
sound of a whip cracking at the start of the song, and I believe this is you cracking a whip your father made. So I'm wondering if you are a dab hand with a whip generally.
I'm all right. I go all right. I'm a one trick pony, so I can do like the back and front. So and I can do it with my left hand a little bit as well. I'm okay. But it's a goal. I'd love to get better because my dad's really good. He can do the Queensland crossover and all the different tricks. So yeah, he's amazing. He makes really wonderful whips. He's one of the best in Australia. He's won awards. You'll see his whips hanging in many saddleries around the country. So I just thought, we're talking about the whip cracking in this, which is a big part of my life. He's been doing that since I was about 3 or 4.
Right.
He left his building trade to become a whip maker. So I thought, oh, I think I need to crack the whip in this one. Yeah, it's exciting.
And if anyone's ever walked down Peel Street during the Tamworth Country Music Festival, like I have, and inadvertently almost walked into a whip cracker, it's quite it's quite a dangerous implement in the
It
right hand.
is. I have a bruise on my leg at the moment, actually, from a whip, from showing off. Don't show off.
Since we're talking about things to do with living on the land, what do you love the most about living on the land?
Oh, there's so much. I mean, I love the fact that my whole family live here, which makes it even more special. So my mum and dad are just around the corner in the house where I grew up. And then my brother and sister-in-law and all their little babies are there. Well, they've grown now, but I watch them grow up and now I have my little family here right around the corner too. So it's family first. I think it's just being able to go around and hang out with my dad while he's making whips in the shed and have some company. And it's just the quietness, It's like I forgot to put my pants on, but I'm in the front yard and it doesn't matter. It's all that kind of stuff. I just love it so much. And I love growing things,
Mhm.
and the opportunity to do all of that. Yeah, it's just wonderful.
Do you think that the literal earthiness and groundedness of being there have helped ground you as a writer, or provided inspiration for your work?
Yeah, always. And even if I'm not writing about, the land or living on the land per se, just sitting down on my couch and having that view,
Mhm.
it just changes where you're creating from.
Mhm.
It's not the same as sitting in a high-rise building or sitting somewhere, where you've just got four walls around you and not much to see. It's just, it does. I've noticed it makes a massive difference.
And what do you think your greatest motivation as a songwriter is?
Oh, wow, that's a great question. I think just to make an impact.
Mhm.
I just love it when people hear something and go, that's just made such a difference to something I'm going through. That's just made it, the other night I was struggling and I listened to that song and I felt understood. Or if someone having some tears over your song, I think, and on myself, if I write a song about something I'm going through and it's helped me, and, if I'm giving that to others, then that's my greatest inspiration.
So that leads me to a question about Too Far Down, which was your previous single, because that was a really thoughtful and thought-provoking song. I'm wondering if you've had some feedback from fans about that one.
Yeah, it's probably still one of the most successful releases to date. And it seems to just keep snowballing and snowballing, and did really well on charts. And surprisingly, because it's not a popular tune, it's not something that you think would really stand out, but I still do have people, messaging me, oh, I've listened to that song so many times, and every time I listen, it has a different take. Or yeah, I always get some feedback on that one. And now when I play it at gigs, people are starting to sing along, and it just feels incredible. And it's a very special one.
So given that your motivation as an artist is to have that impact, is that the same motivation you had when you started out, or have you found that you've changed over time?
It probably always has been. Yeah, when I started out as a teenager, I just wanted to be a really good artist. I just
Right.
wanted to, I wanted to be polished, and I wanted to learn as much as I could. I suppose that was the intention. Let's, hone that craft, learn how to write really well. Whereas as I get older, it's more, I want to be impactful and intentional, and connection means a lot to me with an audience.
And I also wonder if that's something to do with actually having that audience there. You now can see faces. The people are sending you messages, so that your understanding of your role, or the role of an artist generally in the culture, has changed.
Yes, definitely it does. And even Tamworth this year, I was absolutely blown away with how many people were singing along to my songs. I just thought, this is just starting to get so insanely amazing, and you just want to go and never stop writing. Like, just let's have it. It's so inspiring, and I hope people realize that, because some weeks aren't. Some weeks we get a bunch of emails saying, sorry, not this time. Maybe next year, try again next time. So when you do have people that are just doing little things like singing along to your songs, or just saying a couple of nice little words, that can just keep you going. Because sometimes you're like, oh, maybe I don't need to keep doing this. Maybe I don't need the heartache in my life. So yeah, they're everything.
So I guess part of the popularity of country music as a genre now is, yes, there are more artists out there. And I imagine when you're talking about the Not Next Year, it's festivals, it's places you're applying to
Mm.
play, and perhaps even grants, things like that. And now there
Yeah.
are just a lot of artists around. But you are playing some festivals later this year. And so I'm interested, your process for that, because of where you live and the logistics of things. Do you have a band you need to rehearse with? And if so, where does that happen?
I just started playing with a new band on the Northern Rivers, actually. And literally, we had our first rehearsal on Sunday. So that has been something I thought, I really need to tick that off the list. Like, how am I going to do this? Are there players on the Northern Rivers? But I have found this amazing band. So yes, I think it's just to watch this space. Let's just see how everything goes. There's a lot of, got to learn all the songs, got to get it all meshing and nice and tight. But yeah, I think it'll be exciting now that I have that band to continuously rehearse with, versus just having a quick run through before the show in Tamworth with players that live way down south, and it's just so much more complicated. So yeah, it'll be really exciting the next 12 months beyond.
So does that mean you'll have the opportunity to play gigs in your local area?
Yeah, and I already do, but it's solo. So it's going to be really nice to feel like I'm stepping up into that band. I love solo ones too. And the set list will be a little bit different. I do love my storyteller solo stuff. So a band gig's going to be, yeah, I'm going to have to kind of work out how I can still be that storyteller songwriter as well, but with the band. So it's going to be really good.
Now, before we started recording, I remarked on the top you are wearing. So actually,
Yes.
let's talk about it's made by Pure Western, I think. So tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, this is from the new Pure Western range, the knitwear. It's just so stunning. So I'm so lucky. This year I got back from Buckwild Country Barn sessions in January, and I had an email from Thomas Cook. So Thomas Cook, a Thomas Cook Wrangler, Pure Western, Twisted X, and I'm now an ambassador for them. So I've been wearing their clothes, which are just divine. And we have a photo shoot this Friday, actually wearing some of the new stuff. So it just fits my personality, who I am as an artist, everything. So I'm very lucky, very grateful.
But I see these ambassadorships popping up every now and again. I think, well, that's a nice gig to get. And so now I know how that happens.
Yes,
They send you an email.
very exciting. I think I did apply quite a while ago, but I apply for everything all the time. So I'd probably forgotten about it, which is good.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and you would need to, but it's also part of the admin of being an independent artist, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. That's every people ask, what do you do every week? But we are doing that every week. We're going, what can we apply for? Where can we play? Or you're researching, you know, what festivals are next? What grants will I apply for? Or just planning a release. A plan to release a song takes like 3, 4, 5 months. So yeah, you're always working, and then songwriting and all the
So
other things.
that's actually really interesting. I'd like to ask you about that, the planning that takes the months, because it's not just, I imagine that does not include recording. That is just planning to get it out there.
Yeah, a little bit of a rough timeline. And, you know, there's optimal times to release as well. Do you want to release around a festival?
Right.
You know, you kind of, there's always things, and you want to release in time to put it in for Golden Guitars or whatever awards are coming up. There's all these different things to kind of factor in. But yeah, I'm a little bit off the cuff too, though. Oh, it feels good. We'll release it in the next couple of months.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Because of course, you know, not that long ago, these were all things that a record company would do for a lot of artists. And there are so many of you in country music are independent now, but it's not, I know you've been to the Academy and there is a lot of information provided there, but it's not like there is a country music university where you can go and learn essentially all these sorts of things that you need to know, applying for this, that,
Yeah.
the other, and the timing of it.
And it changes all the time, because since I've gone to Academy, it's changed completely. We didn't really
Right.
have the streaming platforms much when I went
Right.
to Academy.
Okay.
So yeah, you learn on the job. And as I said, I'm not great with technology as it is. So it's great fun. Just gotta Google everything. How do I do this? Google. So you get there. It's good to have a challenge.
It is, and you get great songs out while you're doing it. So I imagine, given the time commitment and the distance commitment for you to record with Rusty, you are very purposeful about the songs that you're going to record with him. So you said that you will float songs past him and you can tell by his reaction. So imagine you don't show up without a fully formed idea of what you're recording that day.
Yeah, sorry, what do you mean?
No, so when you get to Tamworth, this was actually leading me into saying, do you have some new recordings coming? That was a really convoluted way of saying it.
It's all right. I just want to make sure I answer it properly, because I'll probably answer something completely different.
No, that's what my original question was, have you been working on new recordings? I was thinking,
Yeah.
because really when you go to make new recordings, you can't just turn up to Rusty and say, oh, hey, how about it? You really have to get in that car and think about it.
Yes. Well, I'll have some demos ready.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll have a handful and usually go, this is what we're working on next. So we'll get a few ready and then see how they're rounding out. And you can hear the single coming out, like, oh, that's more of a single.
Okay.
So that's kind of what we do. And that's what we're doing at the moment. We've got 3 coming up through. So we've had Too Far Down. We've had Can't Fake That. We've got 3 coming up through. And in the next, I think I go down in a couple of weeks, I will check and just see how they're rounding out. Okay, I think that'll be the next single, which will hopefully be July, August. I'm always a little bit late, but yeah, we'll just see how things are going. And then we're halfway to a record, though, because that's 5 songs.
Right.
And then I've got a couple more in my back pocket, and I'll write a couple more, and we'll try and do an album next year.
So when you say you can hear the single coming through, are you listening for like something that it's like, this hook is really great, or are you particularly listening for, I think this can work on radio?
Yeah, a little bit of both. I don't try to do that too much, because radio is probably not Katie Brooke anyway. Sometimes I think some of the popular radio stations want a very pop country. You know, that's just the reality of it sometimes. And I'm not overly poppy country. I love it, listen to it, have, you know, hometown song, and a couple of my songs are a bit like that. But you know, like Too Far Down isn't that style. And when I listened to that, I went, well, this isn't going to be popular country radio stuff, but I love it. My heart was just leaping for it.
Yeah.
So you've got to bypass it'd be nice, but yeah, I think more, again, the hook, like just something catchy, or, you know, who needs this song? Like, I've got a song about regrets, you know, how we handle them, why we have them, how they shape us, all that kind of stuff. And I think, gosh, who doesn't have regrets? Who doesn't want a song about that? So yeah, if that starts to shape, that could be the one.
And I love that point you just made about thinking, who needs this song? Because again, that idea of connecting to your audience and having them in mind, being a storyteller to them, not just thinking, I'm just going to make this because I think it's a great song.
Yeah, yeah, that's important to me. You know, I think every artist, they have different things that they value and different things that they want.
Mhm.
And I just value connection. And, you know, if it takes me longer to get the accolades or get the main spots on the main stages or whatever, that's okay. It'll happen in its own divine timing if it's supposed to.
And you said your heart was leaping for too far down. Well, following your instincts there, or following your heart there was completely right. Because as you said, that's so connected with audiences.
Yeah, shockingly, it was just blew me away actually, that
Yeah.
one.
So it sounds like, following your instinct slash heart slash
Yeah.
mind, or which could all be of a piece, is the right path for you. Now the path you have taken at the moment is, I was going to say too far down. No, can't fake
Yeah.
that. There you go. I'm stuck on your previous single. No, the
I
latest.
still get them mixed up too. Yeah.
Both got 3 words. I think that's what it is. Can't
Yes.
Fake That is the new single. It is, as you said, it's very upbeat and entertaining and lighthearted. It is also a thoughtful song. I don't think you can not make a thoughtful song.
Yeah, that's true. Definitely.
Katie, I will leave it there. It is Sunday evening at the time we're talking. And at the end of a long week, I thank you very much for your time. Great to talk to you again.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sophie. It's been a pleasure.